want to talk a little bit about trellising, how I trellis my tomatoes. Now, our farm is in the south, so we get some intense sunlight and intense sun. So I do minimal pruning of my tomatoes. And we'll talk about that. But first, I want to talk about the way I stake my tomatoes. I used to use individual cages made from cement wire and have one cage per tomato. Now that worked great for small scale, but as the farm grew, I had to find a different solution to that problem. What I started doing is what I call the figure-8 weaving, and I purchased a lot of these metal T-posts, and I put them every 4 plants. Now these are green zebras, so they'll be very tall and indeterminate tomatoes, and they will grow much taller than this. But when they go over this line, they'll just fall back over. And we don't keep tomatoes all season long here in the south anyway, because of the disease problems we have. So basically the way I do it is I buy this tomato trellis. I get this tomato trellis from High Mowing Seeds out of Vermont. They sell it in boxes. It's kind of a thin nylon string, and it's quite strong. It's very good. Last year I used untreated hemp twine that is used for baling hay, and that worked as well. But it's a little thicker, so I decided to try this nylon string that I got from my friends at High Mowing Seeds. We start by tying up one end on the first pole, and we just run the string all the way down the line and then come back the other way. So basically you have, one cord on each side of the tomato plant. Then you come back and you weave. I undid this side to show you. So we got our string right here, nice and tight. We just do a loop and go as low as we can as the last one. And nice and tight. The tomato plants are in between the 2 strings. And then you go on to the next post. And you do the same thing. There again, the tomato string is in there between the tomatoes are in between the 2 strings. And we do this about, depending on the tomato plant, but I'd say at least a half a dozen times per season, to try to give this as much support as possible. And then so here we go to the last. Okay, so now the pruning we do, the minimal pruning we do, is we get the suckers that start growing at the bottom. A sucker is a branch that comes off the main stalk of the tomato. And so, for example, this is a sucker. Left alone, it will create another branch with flowers and grow more tomatoes. Actually, also, you can actually take this sucker and put some root toner in it, put in some soil, and it will create roots. So it's one way that you can actually have more tomatoes. But I'm going to cut all the ones at the bottom, and we'll go ahead and move them out of the greenhouse. We don't let them sit around here and dry. But I'm going to get all the bottom ones. See, this one plant had 4 suckers, and we're going to let this one. Now up here, like I mentioned before, we get intense sunlight, and then we're also in a high tunnel, so it gets really warm in here. I'd rather have a little bit more leaf coverage, and the leaves covering the tomatoes. So I don't cut the suckers throughout the season, just initially. But there's another one. We'll get that one. So there it is, and we'll move on to the next one. You want to make sure you have a clean clippers and clean knife.
Why?
Because you don't want to transmit any diseases that you may be carrying from another crop, or so.